Hi, welcome to the Room for Creativity. My name's Ashley, and this is Matt, and we're here to talk to you about the intersections of creativity, technology, and innovation.
Sounds like a busy intersection.
Definitely can be. And one of the things that shows up at that intersection happens to be 3D printing, which is our topic for today. If you're liking what we're doing, please do make sure that you go down and leave us a like. Also, if you could subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. And even better yet, leave a comment, even a simple heart, or answer our question of the pod, and we'll be so happy to see it and can start a conversation with you. Yeah. So, before we jump into everything, Matt, what have you been up to? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, this week I received some parts for a piece of music I was commissioned to write last year. So it is all finished and ready to be delivered to the commissionee band. I've also finished doing an arrangement of a piece that I wrote years ago for the North Bay Symphony to perform in October.
That's River Valley Sketches, right?
It is River Valley Sketches. I wrote that in 2012 and it won, it's the Coward Cable Band Prize now, but it won that award in 2013. So it's taken me this long to do it for orchestra, but it will be performed this year.
Yeah. And I can't wait for that because the North Bay Symphony, it means we get to go to North Bay. Went to school. I went to university up there. That's where I met Matt. Meet cute.
Sparkle.
We'll tell you that story another day. Matt's family's up there. Our best friend is up there. It's just a great time. Anytime we go up there, the nature... I could go on about it.
Always fun to visit.
Yes, always fun to visit. But I'm so excited for that. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. So that's me. What have you been up to?
Honestly, I've been working a lot on things that haven't had to do with this. The week that our third episode came out, linking it, was a week that my dad came down to help us get things ready around the house. As we've mentioned before, we are working on getting ready to sell. So there's always a lot of things. I mean, there's always a lot of things when you own a house.
Oh, yes.
But when you're trying to get ready to sell, all those things that you're like, I can do that later, become, I can do that right now. And some of it was just outside of the scope of what I understand. So thankfully, my dad was kind enough to come down. We got a lot done.
You two were very efficient.
Both my dad and I were like, how did you get all of that done in that time? And I went, I don't know. But we did, and it was awesome. But it left me no time to really work on any of these kind of things. I feel like I've been playing a lot of catch up, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks.
It really has. It's been great. Definitely not complaining, but it has been busy. So let's just jump into what we have to talk about today, which is 3D printing. Mm-hmm. I did bring down this, which is a 3D printed, what's called a Turkish spindle. It's a drop spindle for making yarn. I make yarn, as I've mentioned in the past. This is something that is 3D printed. While the crosses on it are 3D printed. I'll take it off so that you can see. These pieces come apart.
What's it made out of?
It's just what's called PLA. It's a plastic of sorts.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of the main composites that is used to make these. As you can see, it's fairly intricate. Like, it's got the little sheep cut out on it. This is very simple even for what 3D printing could do. 3D printing is essentially taking a digital design, so usually made in a computer-aided design program or a CAD program. If you've ever had, say, jewelry made custom and you've gotten a 3D kind of mock-up of it sent to you by the designer, that is usually done in a CAD program, just to give you an idea of another use for it. Then they run it through a slicing program, which cuts everything into layers. And that is what the 3D printer understands. So then that's the program, or the code that it gets out of that is what is fed into the printer and creates your design.
Sounds kind of like, is it an MRI that creates like slices of a human body?
Yeah.
I think there's some medical test that does do that. That's
MRI.
what it sounds like. Yeah,
MRI.
it sounds like an MRI, like a reverse MRI.
That's a really good analogy, actually. I really like that.
Cool.
That's an excellent way. It's almost like the reverse of it, where you're kind of building it.
Yeah, instead of taking it apart.
It'll take whatever you're using as your medium, and it prints out a layer using a nozzle that just kind of goes around. And once it's printed that layer, either the bottom drops or the nozzle lifts up, and then it prints the next layer, and it goes on until you have a full printed object.
We're going to try to put a video up here somewhere of it doing its thing, but if we don't get it to happen, go look on YouTube. There's tons of videos showing you how it works.
Yep. I actually have one listed in the references that is literally this is how it works. So make sure to check our references. They are always linked in the description.
Right.
Today, we're going to talk about primarily the plastic and the resin printers, so the stuff that makes these kind of things. Not the other ones. There are other ones that make things using different kind of composites, because technology never likes to say that anything is good enough, and neither does innovation. So there's 3D printers that use like concrete composites, metal powders, and even 3D printed things like meat and organs. They're working on human organs right now, is one of the innovations.
3D printed meat?
Yep.
What composite would you use to print that?
Cells, and we'll call it matrix, because I honestly don't know enough about it. I did link, again, in the references, an article about this that goes into a lot more detail about how they're doing this, but the innovation is really cool, especially around organs, in my opinion. I'm biased because I had an aunt who got a double lung transplant, and I saw how bad she had to get before she actually received the transplant. And they could have taken cells from her, built it using her biology.
Oh, yeah.
And that they think it'll cut down on things like rejection. Anyone who knows anyone who's ever had a transplant, the amount of drugs you have to take is insane. And you have to be strict on a schedule.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, like I'm talking hours, minutes. Like, you can't really, you're taking it at 3:00 every day.
Yeah. Geez, yeah. I mean, that and you wouldn't have to be waiting on lines for, something to pop up. That'd be great.
Yeah. So innovation-wise, I want to do a whole other thing on that. So I'm going to leave it alone for right now, but please.
Would you try it? 3D printed meat?
If somebody offered me it, I would absolutely try it. I think we need to start thinking more ecologically sound and thinking about alternatives to what we eat every day now.
I'd try it. I'd try just to say that I'd done it at least.
Yeah. I mean, anything once?
Yeah, including 3D printed meat.
Why not?
Ugh.
A quick Cole's notes on the history here. Started in the 1980s. Was something that was made to solve issues around fast prototyping.
Which is way earlier than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a 2010s thing that this came up at. So I was surprised to find that it was in the 80s.
Yeah, it started a lot earlier. Even when I was looking into it, I wasn't 100% sure when I was going to find it, but it was earlier than I thought. But basically, when it comes to prototyping, you're trying to get a product ready for market. You need to make sure it's perfect. Every time you need to make a prototype, before this was made, people would have to send out. They'd have to send out to people who were like tool and die, someone who could make this item for them. And that could take weeks in turnaround easily, because to actually tool up something to make this, and you're making a one-off, so usually if you're doing something and you're a manufacturer, a mass manufacturer, tooling something for just one item is kind of, well, it's not a top priority.
Makes sense.
So then they get something back. Okay, this little knobby here needs to move 3 millimeters to the left.
Oh,
now you got to go another 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, however long it took.
Oh, geez, that could take forever depending on what's going on.
And that was the problem. So once they figured out 3D printing, they could do this stuff in hours. Basically, the engineer who was working on it could go in, look at the CAD, do the code, or whatever versions of it they had at that time. I don't know enough about the engineering side of it. I will admit that. And they could make a prototype in a few hours. So,
Wow.
yeah, it sped up everything, made production a lot easier and faster, something that a lot of, obviously, manufacturers, they want to get their products out to market as fast as possible. So it really changed how we looked at doing things like that. But it was very proprietary. There were a lot of patents around it. So just like you were saying, you didn't think it came out until about the 2010s.
Nope.
It didn't become commercially available because this was something that was really for engineering firms. It didn't become commercially available until the aughts. So it was about 2006, I think, that everything went out of license, that the patents ran out, and everything was open source. So you could get the information, the programs, everything on the internet. And even more, you could now buy a machine. People started making them for the hobbyist.
Yeah, you had one for a little while, didn't you? It was like a pen or
Well,
something.
yeah, I didn't have one of the 3D printing machines. I had a 3D printing pen because I just was like, ooh, shiny.
Yeah, still though, I mean, it just shows that you can just go buy these things. Anyone can have one. This is what amounts to an industrial process, and they don't just let anybody do a lot of different kinds of industrial processes. Like, there's health concerns and things that come along with that you want to be very careful about.
Yeah, I know there are a few health and safety concerns about things when it comes to 3D printing, but I don't know a lot about them.
Yeah, well, you got to think, if you're using polymers or plastics or things like that, there's microparticles that can come off that can get into your body. There's fumes that could be generated if you're getting something up to a certain temperature. Obviously, some of these nozzles, as you found out, can get fairly hot, and you can end up getting burned on them.
Oh, yeah.
From the reading that I did, I mean, you could end up with something as benign as a headache up to cancer and neurological problems. So if somebody's just using this in a computer room, you might want to be a little careful about what you're doing with it.
Well, microplastics are the 21st century asbestos. So...
Yeah, fair point. So yeah, industrial processes always have regulations and things structured around it to keep people safe. And this is kind of going into the Wild West where those don't exist at present, which could, run into an influx of people with different things. I was going to say, the next illness, they'll have some name for it, and everybody, it's like black lung. That's what I was thinking of. It'll be that, but for 3D printing machines.
Yeah, I agree. It's something, because I know a lot of people that have 3D printers. I have friends that use them for prototyping. I have friends that use them for other things. I don't think any of them are using them under a vent hood.
Which might be a good idea, again, depending on what you're doing with it.
At least move it over by the window and have a fan pushing everything out.
Yeah, you don't want to get something nasty because of this.
Yeah. We're not here to give health advice. I don't know enough about the health side of it. I don't think either of us do, but we have seen cautions.
Other than just be careful, I guess. That's the only advice I can give.
Yeah. As I mentioned, 2006, the hobbyist could get a hold of it and use them, and this was the point in production, but they could produce much more for a lower price and basically just create something where it was like, I'm creating enough to have maybe a small business or a side hustle or something. You used an ant, a 2-inch ant as an example with me earlier.
I don't know why I keep going for just an ant. It just seems like a 3D printable thing. I don't know why I keep harping on it, but for some reason. Anyway.
Yeah, but let's say somebody has one of the 24-inch, that's 2 foot, 60 centimeters, sort of base where that's the printable surface, and they decide that they're going to print these ants, these 2-inch ants, and they can spread them out in a way that they can print a certain number of them at any given time. It takes an hour to print them.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, instead of making one thing at a time like a lot of artisans do, you're making 10, 12, 15 things at a time.
Yeah.
Or people who set up what they call 3D print farms are just constantly running. And even if it is something that takes 4 or 5 hours to print, if you're printing 24 hours a day or even 12, you're still making a lot more stuff than, say, we were talking about, say, a clay pot for flowers, a clay flower pot. If I printed a clay flower pot, I made a 3D print of that, and I made something similarly sized on a wheel, and I had to kiln fire it, and I had to paint it, and I had to, all of that fun stuff.
That would take a while.
Yeah, and I can make one at a time. So can the 3D printer, but that takes like 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And costs less.
Yes. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think for me, that's where a bit of a line is, because there are some people out here doing this and calling themselves artists. They're buying a design or they're buying code from somebody else, and then they're just constantly putting out copies of the same thing and calling themselves some sort of artist. And I feel like if you're doing that, you're turning yourself into a photo king, which is, for those who don't know, it was a franchise that people used for developing photos. You'd bring in your undeveloped film, and they would do all the work for you, and at the end of it, you get printed photos. But they were never setting themselves up as artists. They were never, calling themselves artists or artisans and thinking they were doing some sort of creative work. They were just a shop that somebody could go to and use to save time. So that's my problem, is that if you're doing this kind of thing, you're not an artist. You're just a Photoshop.
And even more than that, actually, that leads into the idea of getting licensed material. Because a lot of the items that are being printed and sold nowadays go on Etsy. Honestly, go on Etsy, search for 3D printed pig. I looked for a 3D printed gecko because I like reptiles.
Not an ant?
No, I didn't look for an ant. I'm sorry.
That's what 3D printers are for, apparently.
Yeah, according to you.
Just constantly printing out
according
ants.
to you, we're going to have an army of 3D printed ants if we ever get a 3D printer. That's it.
Just ants everywhere.
This is how we get ants.
It's how we will get ants if we can get one of those machines.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah, Etsy, go there. You'll find exactly the same thing on about 10 different pages. And it's because people can buy subscriptions or buy little packs of the code, and basically everything's been done for you. You just have to run it through your 3D printer. And so you can buy these, you get a commercial license, or pay a subscription. There are certain different ways to do it. And you can commercially sell this without saying this is somebody else's design, anything like that, which is where I start to see the difference between a producer and a maker. Because the maker is like, I have a 3D printed sock machine, which basically it does what it says on the tin. But the person who sold it did the prototypes, designed it, and they sell their product. So that, to me, that's a maker, an artisan, selling their product. Whereas, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a very interesting parallel to what I do as a musical score.
Huh?
Yeah, because I spend the time and the energy to create a piece of music.
Okay.
Once I'm done, I send it off to a publisher who will get it all set up and make it available for anyone to purchase. And then a band will come along and they'll buy that piece of music. I will get paid a percentage, whatever it's going to be, and I'll make some money off of that. But after that, it's out of my hands, really. Whoever buys it can photocopy it. They can play it as many times as they want, and yet I'm only getting paid the one time for it. In a perfect, ideal world, I'd be able to track performances of these pieces of music. And I'd be able to register it with a Performing Arts Association here in Canada, and I would get paid some royalties for every performance. But short of being able to track down every performance of this piece, I'm missing out on money. So I'm getting paid the one time for the score, and then that's kind of it. And I find that's an interesting parallel to buying code or directions and then just constantly putting stuff out and only getting paid once for it.
Speaking of buying code, if anyone knows a product that would be able to track those things, please let us know in the comments.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
And if you're liking things at this point, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Back to this, though. So, I think we're talking at this point about pushback, and there has been pushback.
Good.
I know. Again, I do want to make it clear that I don't want to disparage or speak against people who are doing this. They have every right to do it. That is fine. My thing comes in where it's putting yourself out there as the maker.
Is it being dishonest?
The creator.
Maybe.
To me, it feels dishonest. Again, this is my opinion. I would love to hear yours. You can drop that in the comments. And actually, that is going to be our question of the podcast, is going to be, what is your thought on creative, on 3D printing and how it is affecting the creative space? Is it a creative thing or is it a manufacturing thing?
Where is the line between artist and assembly line?
There you go. So, as I said, there is pushback. The anecdotes I've heard are basically, I watch a lot of creators, of course, doing a lot of research for this, and just because I like to. And I have heard a lot of complaints about how these things are infringing on these spaces. They are frustrated. One of the reptile creators that I follow complained about 3D printed items showing up a lot at reptile shows. And one of the reasons that he mentioned this specifically is because when you go to a reptile show, a lot of the time you're paying to get in. They're very specifically, if you're going to a reptile show, you're going because you want to see reptiles. You want to you want to be with your community. You want to geek out with a bunch of people about reptiles. The last time I was there, I got to geek out with one of the coolest guys. He does monitor lizards. I will actually leave his link down below if I can find it. No, I can. But he is so cool and just spent like 30 minutes geeking out about monitor lizards, which I'm not going to geek out with you because unless you're really into reptiles, you're just hearing me say things right now.
Then you'll all know how I feel.
Yes, he comes with me because he is a very supportive husband.
And I will say, in this very extremely specific circumstance, I don't mind having all those different creators and artisans there because it gives me something to look at because I'm not as into reptiles as everybody else is. But again, that's just me in that one instance.
Yeah. And I don't want to shoot back at any of the creators there that have made their own things. I have 2 3D printed hides for my sneak upstairs. And Ian loves one of them. And I'm not sure about the other.
Hates everything else.
Yeah, well, he hates everything. But he does like that. And they designed those themselves. I know that because I have talked to these people. I have talked to them about their prototyping process. I have talked to them about their Gen 1, their Gen 2, their Gen 3. I have things from a couple of different generations of what they do. And I'm like, sell it. Sell it here. You're selling products that are for reptiles. But then you'll have, 5, 6, 7 booths that may have a couple of isopod cultures on their table or springtails, which, for those of you that don't get into this stuff, honestly, that's about as small as you can possibly get. They have about 4 or 5 on there, and then they have the rest is 3D printing. And it's these little articulated geckos or dragons or pick a thing. They're all really cool, but I can go to the next booth, see exactly the same printouts. I can go and I can go to all 6 and see exactly the same thing.
Yeah, there's a difference between 3D printing things to assist you in being a pet owner. 3D printed, I don't know, cat leashes or a hamster wheel or anything sort of peripherally attached to being a pet owner, and then just going up and being like, well, these are just things I've created. They're 3D printed figurines or pictures or whatever. I mean, that's fine, but that's not exactly in the scope of what's supposed to be going on here. And you don't want to see that balance tip too far to that direction.
Yeah, and the complaint was that with as many people going in and doing that as there are, we are leaving fewer spaces for the reptiles and the plants that are supposed to be at these reptile and plant expos.
Well, and you'd hope that whoever's running it would be cognizant of that, but
they have to sell tables too.
Yeah.
We have to remember that these are our markets just like a maker's market. So they have to fill their tables, their booths, and I know that down to the last day, they will have open booths. Because I watch who's signing up. They have a live, basically, hey, you can see who's going to be there and what booth they're going to be at. So I can see which ones are empty.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge.
Sure, that's why I don't run one of those.
But anecdotally, as I mentioned, there's pushback in those spaces, in makers markets, in any market space, especially niche markets. So the smaller markets. And I've seen it actually at craft shows when I was doing some research about, pricing out how much it would be to go to a craft show to set up a booth, things like that. And I found one market, I don't want to say exactly which one because I cannot remember which, but I know they're not the only one. And they said specifically, and it was just for one show. So not all the shows they run. But it was like, this one, we're specifically not having people who have booths with 3D printed for 3D printed items.
Oh, they just banned it outright.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Candles and one other thing, and I can't remember what that one is.
What do they have against chandlers?
Chandlers? I didn't say chandler.
Yeah, chandlers. That's the term for someone who makes soap and candles. Did you not know that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, if you didn't know that, now you do. Someone who makes candles is called a chandler.
I learned something new. Isn't that exciting?
The more you know. So what do they have against chandlers?
I don't think they have anything against chandlers. I think it is about the fact that there are a lot of people making candles right now.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's a flooding of the market, just
Okay.
like we've had a flooding of the market of all these 3D printed objects.
I can see that. Candles are fairly easy to make, and they are all over the place.
Yeah, some are, absolutely.
Okay, fair enough.
But this is exactly it. There's going to be there has started to be pushback. It's taken time for it to hit a tipping point of too many people putting these things out. And now we're starting to see people go, okay, for this show, we're not having that. For this show, we're doing this. For this show, and I'm sure they're going to have shows where there are spaces for these people who are putting out these products. And that's wonderful. I do not think that anyone should not be allowed to do this. That is not my issue.
Just the policing of which spaces, I don't want to say allowed in, but
I don't want to gatekeep. That's my thing. I'm not trying to gatekeep here. My thing is just, are you an artisan? To me, no. My opinion. But the person who created it, originally, the person who did the CAD, the code, the everything, that's the creator to me. You are a producer. Or the person who's doing it is a producer. Again, not a bad thing. Just they are different. So, again, these are our opinions. We can't police it. We don't want to
Yet.
police it. Okay, he wants to police it. I don't. But it is interesting to talk about and interesting to see where those parallels are, because this has started pushing people out of spaces or making people feel like, okay, my art isn't being seen or looked at in the same way because this is cheaper, more available, it's everywhere. And when you get 20 of those before you see my one thing, all of a sudden I'm getting lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're getting buried.
Yeah. So that's the challenge for me. And as an artist, as a creator, I feel that. But I think that's a good place to leave it, because we have talked now about the challenges, we've talked about making space and how people are, and we want to make sure that we're giving you a little bit of an opportunity to have your opinion heard. So again, leave it in the comments. What's your opinion on 3D printing? Is it art or is it production?
So, if you've enjoyed sitting here and listening to us put the world to rights, follow us on all our social media outlets. We're everywhere pretty much. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a like. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify if you could. It would really help us out.
Absolutely. It would be a really helpful thing. We're basically anywhere you would like to stream us. If you are curious about more, please make sure that you go to our website, roomforcreativitypod.com. And next week, make sure to come back, because we are looking at making room. We're looking more at the making room side of Room for Creativity.
Yes. Tune in next week, because we will be giving you 5 tips to make more room for creativity in your life by adjusting your phone habits.
Yeah, I'm really actually very curious about this one. There are a few on there that I really want to try.
Yeah.
And one that is really, I'm so curious about it.
Ooh, okay, then you're really going to have to show up, because it sounds interesting.
And also I'm excited because as I do try them, I do want to report back to you all and let you know how I found it worked as we go through, or as we went through and tried it. Because who knows, maybe I'll find the magic bullet.
Wouldn't that be great?
I highly doubt I will, but
but you got to try.
I will always try. So, from us here, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.